Hey, John, good morning.
Good morning, Soledad. Well, here in Lower Manhattan, we are bracing for the storm, which will be coming throughout the day. All over the East Coast, the major metropolitan areas are bracing for the storm. You see it in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. I want to go to Philadelphia now and talk to Dave Schrader, who's the communications director for the American Red Cross there. And Dave, you have 3 shelters set up in Philadelphia right now. Are they filled with people? Are people heading to these? Are they heeding your warnings?
Yes, good morning. You do have 3 shelters open in the Philadelphia city itself. They actually have been growing in size throughout the night. When I went to sleep last night about 1 a.m., numbers were about 60. They're up over 125 just in the Philadelphia shelters alone. We have 7 other shelters open in the immediate vicinity of Philadelphia. We expect to open 5 more at 9 a.m. today. The numbers have been increasing throughout the day. About 250 people spent the night in Red Cross shelters here in Philadelphia area overnight.
Okay, so the airport shut down in Philadelphia. Mass transit will be shut down today. What's your advice to people as the day moves on? At what point should they no longer be outside trying to get to one of your shelters? At what time, if they're where they are, they should just stay there?
Well, emergency officials, the mayor, basically spent the day yesterday and they're spending the morning again today, urging people that if you don't need to be out, do not go out. And you should have done your preparing already. If you don't feel safe, if you are in danger, it's never too late to come to a Red Cross, particularly if you live in low-lying areas. There's still time to make it there, but that window of opportunity is quickly closing. So if you are not feeling safe, where you've been flooded out before, if you are prone to flooding, you really should make a plan to go to a shelter, to a friend's house, someplace that is not prone to flooding.
Every city is facing a slightly different version of this storm. Right here in New York, where I'm standing, it's the storm surge right on the edge of New York Harbor here. What's of greatest concern to Philadelphia where you are?
The 2 biggest concerns we have are power outages and flooding. Obviously, it's a very densely populated area, more than 4 million people in our area. So power outages could have devastating effects, and flooding. We have a lot of rivers and creeks that typically overflow their banks for general heavy rainstorms. So something like this could have potentially big impact. So we're making sure we're prepared, we're making sure people are ready, and welcoming here at our Red Cross shelters if anyone needs a place to be safe.
All right, Dave Schrader, who's the communications director for the American Red Cross in the greater Philadelphia area. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe yourself. Everyone in that area and along the East Coast really needs to be staying safe right now. We're hearing, as he said, that some 10 million people could lose power in the next few days. That is a serious number. The storm surge here in Lower Manhattan, very much a story as Sandy bears down on the East Coast.
Getting this news just in now. Amtrak announcing it has canceled all travel through the Northeast Corridor through Tuesday. Amtrak canceling transportation along the Northeast coast. And Pennsylvania, Governor Tom Corbett, he is now calling Sandy, quote, a hurricane wrapped in a nor'easter. In Philadelphia, the American Red Cross has shelters open for residents who don't want to ride it out at home. And joining us is Dave Schrader, and he's with the Red Cross. He joins us by phone. Dave, first of all, how many people have you seen today, and what kind of situation are they dealing with?
Right now we have 15 shelters open. We're approaching 300 people in those shelters throughout the greater southeastern Pennsylvania territory. They basically are getting food, clothing, cots, blankets, pillows, comfort items, and most of the shelters are pet friendly, so I think that helps people feel reassured that they can bring their pets.
Pet friendly, that's a good thing. Who's actually showing up at the shelters? Are these mostly families? Are they elderly people? What do we know?
It's a pretty broad mix. It's a fair amount elderly. There are lots of families with young children. I would say about a quarter of the people in the city, the shelters in the city are children. And that's who's been coming in. It's basically people who either decided they couldn't wait it out, they didn't want to tempt fate, I guess, and they decided I'm going to go to a shelter.
And Dave, if you need to go to a shelter, if you're thinking of going to a shelter, what should you bring or not bring? How should you prepare?
Basically, you can bring whatever you feel comfortable. There's really no restrictions on the kind of things that make you feel comfortable. you get a blanket and pillow, but you can still certainly bring your own. Bring your patience. You're certainly going to need that for the next 12 to 24 hours. And you might want to bring some important papers, maybe insurance documents, things like that, in case when your home gets flooded, you lose those papers, you have them with you, and the Red Cross can assist in helping you connect with insurance companies and speeding that process along.
And Dave, finally, real quickly here, if you are in a shelter, how long can you stay? How long are you prepared to actually house people as this storm moves through?
The Red Cross is prepared to stay as long as it's necessary. As long as the need is there, we're staying open. There's no time limit on this right now.
All right. Dave Schrader of the American Red Cross, thank you very much.
Emergency shelters are up and running in several states right now. Dave Schrader is with the Red Cross in the Philadelphia area where teams have been preparing for the worst. He joins us on the phone right now. Dave, how many people in your area have taken shelter from the storm?
We are approaching 300 people in shelters throughout our region. The number has been growing throughout the day. It was under 100 when I went to bed about 1 in the morning, and we're nearing 300 now between our 15 shelters we now have open. We opened 5 more this morning. So up to 15 shelters within our southeastern Pennsylvania footprint, which is about 4.5 million people.
Now, Dave, I know a lot of people are trying to get out, but at the same time, a lot of people, realistically, they have pets. They're wanting to take their animals with them and not just leave them deserted like a good pet owner would try to do. What are your pet policies at your shelters?
Most of our shelters are pet friendly. Not all. Most of them are. And in a couple of cases, we have veterinarians on as well. All the ones inside our city limits, the 3 shelters set up in Philadelphia itself, are all pet friendly. All of our ones in Montgomery County, I'm in one of those now.
I think that's great that you're trying to do that.
So yeah, I think at least 10 or 11 of them are pet friendly.
Wonderful. And I'm looking at a lot of video from the shelters that we've seen before in the past. Some of them have blankets. What would you suggest that people bring to an emergency shelter with them as they're grabbing things and getting out of their houses to come?
I would suggest bringing something that makes them feel comfortable. They're going to get the basic supplies from us, but if they have a special pillow, if they have a special toy, they have a special book or anything like that, just to help them pass the time, because you're not going to be going outside.
Right, so especially children, right?
You want to make sure you have something to keep you occupied.
Yeah, to keep those children occupied, because you got to think about them. And tell us about
when they come to our shelters, the children all get little Mickey Mouse dolls. And there'll be games, miscellaneous games, but I would recommend bringing something for the kids as well.
Oh, you guys are the best. Tell us about the Red Cross Emergency Smartphone app that can be really helpful to people right now.
Okay, if you download the Hurricane app, it's absolutely free for iTunes and Android, and basically it gives you all the information you need about the direction of the hurricane, where it's going. But one of the great features is it also has a shelter locator map on there. So you just type in your zip code, and it tells you the nearest open shelter to you. It also will give you great planning tips, advice on how to ride out the storm.
Yeah, this storm affected it.
One great feature it also has is it allows you to notify your family and friends through a touch of a button. Update your Twitter and Facebook page right from the smartphone, so there's no need to make 50 phone calls to tell people you're okay. You just say, hey, I'm at a shelter. Boom, a message gets sent out to you with Twitter and Facebook.
That's a great feature for families, too, to know. Definitely so. Dave Schrader with the Red Cross in Philadelphia, thank you so much. Trying to help people out in the storm as millions expected to be affected.